At the top of the program, we have our global variables, and I will explain what each of these does later in the code. We then have our constructor function and prototype functions, which are the same from the button object class in Khan Academy with the addition of a label 2. Next up, I made the buttons on the splash screen and the category scene using the constructor function. With each onClick function, I send the program to the appropriate scene. With each of the 4 buttons on the category scene, I added in the onClick function that is Spanish is true and first time is true, so that the words in the category will show up in Spanish. The greetings, colors, numbers, and animals buttons are all the same basic setup. I also created a home button that is displayed on all the vocabulary scenes, and this one sends us back to the splash screen, which is current scene 0. Here's a basic splash screen with background, title, and instructions, and I called the start and study buttons with the dot draw. The category scene has a similar setup as the splash screen, a background, text in English and Spanish, and the 4 category buttons are called. Here, I will go over just the greetings array and the screen because the other 3 categories are the same format. We first start off with the greetings Spanish and greetings English arrays, which lists a different word in the appropriate languages as each element. I maintained the order for both arrays so that if I call index 3, for example, Buenas tardes will be called, which translates to good afternoon, both of which are index 3 in their respective arrays. Next, I create 2 buttons, the next greeting and the previous greeting buttons. The setup is the same as the other buttons. The main difference is in the onClick function. In the next button, I set that Spanish is true to ensure it will maintain Spanish being the first language on the flashcards. Then I increment by 1 the current GR word, which will be the index of the greetings array. This allows the program to display the next word in order of the array. The if statement tells the program to start the array over once it gets to the last word in the array. The previous greeting button is the same setup, except that we decrease the current GR word by 1 and set it so that if the current GR word is less than 0, which is the first word, then it will keep it at the first word rather than displaying a blank card. Next, we have the greeting scene, which draws the flashcards using a rectangle and provides instructions. The main thing to point out on this scene are the if statements here. The first one tells the program that if it is true that it is the first time we are clicking a button, then is Spanish is true and first time becomes false. When we first enter the greeting scene from the greetings button, remember that we set these 2 variables both to true, which means that since first time is true, these 2 conditions will be implemented. The next if statement tells us that if Spanish is not true, then display the word from the English greetings array at the current GR word index. Remember, if current GR word is 3, then the program would display good afternoon, and the else statement says that if is Spanish is true, then display the Spanish equivalent in gray text. So if is Spanish is true and current GR word is 3, then Buenas tardes would be displayed. The bottom of this scene, we call the next greeting, previous greeting, and home buttons to be displayed, and then we repeat this algorithm with the colors, numbers, and animals categories. For the study scene, we implement a similar algorithm. I created 2 new arrays, all Spanish and all English, which list all the words from each of the 4 categories in one array. I then create 2 empty arrays called removed English and removed Spanish, and then a next word button. Again, the only real difference is in the onClicked. In this function, every time we click next, we want to remove the previous word from the all Spanish English arrays and move it to the removed arrays so that when we click next, it will not repeat words until all words have been displayed once. We implement this with the .push and .splice method in line 707. The splice takes out 1 word, the current word, from all Spanish array and adds it to the removed Spanish array using push, and we repeat this for the English version. Then we reverse the process once the all Spanish array is empty to splice from the removed arrays and push those words back into the all arrays. Since we want the words to display in a random order, we have to set the current word to a random index from the all arrays, which we do in line 715. The last if statement again tells us the program that if it runs out of words to display, then restart the array by setting current word back to 0. The study scene is the exact same setup as the other 4 vocabulary scenes. In our mouse clicked function, we tell the program that if the current scene is X, then allow the respective buttons displayed on scene X to work using the handle mouse click. At the end, we have that if mouse X and mouse Y are within the flashcard coordinates and the current scene is a vocabulary scene, then is Spanish set to not is Spanish, which is what allows us to switch between languages each time we click the flashcard. Finally, the draw function just tells the program to display the appropriate screen for each current scene X.